Hey, I've got it going on my end.
All right, where you want to start?
Well, again, I hope those that are not with us tonight, I hope that they will join us. I mean, they will view the video as we have said. It's important to always look at your videos and don't have to be with us, but you must look at the videos and know what the Zoom class was about. Hope all of you have had a good beginning of this week, and I know you're anxiously ready to see the next 4 weeks completed, and so you can get a little bit of reprieve before you start back after Christmas. But overall, Dr. Lamb, I would think that based on what I'm seeing, we still got a few out, but I'm thinking that they're understanding what they're supposed to be doing with the APTEL. Task 2, they're aligning it with task 1 like they're supposed to for the most part. I've not had to do a whole lot of editing on that. So I think that we did a pretty good job, I think, last week helping them understand what they need to do, and then they've collaborated with each other with their Zoom sessions, and I think that helped as well. So as far as task 1 and task 2, unless you've got, so I don't have anything to say about task 1 and task 2. I think we need to look at task 3
Mm-hmm.
and just remind them that that every one of those areas must be addressed with a narrative beginning with a vision for positive school environment. And all of this is based on, remember we said that in task 1 that right now you've identified the problem. Now task 3 is what you're going to do about it. That's what we said last week. What are you going to do about it? That is your action plan. And every one of those areas must be completely addressed with your narrative work. And then following that, you are to put it in a graphic organizer. And Dr. Lamb has provided again an example of one, but this is the one that both of us really like. So we can't make you do it, but we highly recommend that you use this. It makes it so much easier, and the evaluators like it as well. So I would encourage you to use this and not reinvent the wheel if you don't have to. You're already used to it because you used it in the APSL. Please be reminded that I know you're doing a lot of this work on your own, but remember, you've got to include your team with this. It specifically says that a group of your peers. So, with your PLC team, once it's done, once it's completed, there needs to be evidence that you have shared this with your administration. They need to be a part of this because, I mean, you hope that this is going to be implemented, and you hope that it's going to make a difference, with teachers at your school. So, they need to give the blessings. Hopefully they will, and whatever you do is not going to be completely in vain, and that the school is going to use it to make things better for your school environment. Dr. Lamb, if you would click on week 12, I want to show them the things that I added today, because they probably haven't gone there. And this is in addition to the readings that you've already done. If you're in North Carolina, South Carolina, you're already familiar with these things. But you had to read about, your reading for this week was dealing with teacher dispositions. And those are simply those standards, those things. What are those things that you look for in a good teacher, in good teaching? And North Carolina is outlined clearly what North Carolina expects. And I want to specifically look at Standard 1 and Standard 2. These are the two instruments. Standard 1, teachers demonstrate leadership in their classroom, and it tells you what you need to do. Look at standard, and then underneath that, look at teachers demonstrate leadership in the school. And then it tells you specifically underneath that, Dr. Lamb, in the school, I want you to look at those areas. This is
Well,
exactly what we've talked about. Work collaboratively with all staff to create a professional learning community, analyze data, develop goals and strategies through the school improvement plan, assist in determining school budget and professional development, participate in the hiring process. All of this stuff we've talked about. So again, this is what, when you turn your work in for DPI's evaluation, I want you to know this is not stuff that, Dr. Lamb, we've not made up. This is aligned with what the state of North Carolina expects us to do. And then as you go through the rest of it, it just basically, you know, what makes an effective teacher, because if it's an effective teacher, then you know that the efficacy is going to be good. And we've, you know, this section was all about teacher efficacy. And then if all of that is good, then ultimately it goes back to the APSL. Student performance should improve at your school. And that's, in essence, that's what it's all about, improving student achievement at your school, making things better for your students. South Carolina, if click back, Dr. Lamb, and South Carolina, and I've seen this consistently with the South Carolina work that has come in, and that's the South Carolina, I can't even remember what it is, South Carolina Standards 4.0.
mm-hmm.
And this was, and Dr. Lamb, as I was looking through that, you know, everything that they do, you can propose an action plan, but your action plan really should be completely aligned with what South Carolina is already doing, because they have expectations, and you can't work outside of the expectations of what your state is requiring, and that is a state requirement. Just like North Carolina, these are state requirements. So everything that you do should be fully aligned with whatever is being required. And dispositions, I don't care if it's Timbuktu, the dispositions pretty much are consistent from state to state with what is expected for good teachers, Dr. Lamb. I looked through several of them,
Mm-hmm.
and even in their reading. Do you have any comments on any of that, Dr. Lamb?
All right. I do. All right. These are the North Carolina Professional Teaching Standards. And again, to be redundant, there's two types of empowerment: in your classroom and in your school. We had some feedback from students who said, well, you didn't expressly say, well, we did expressly say that there would be two different types and that you'd have to measure both of those. But if you did your reading, that should have come through in your research. But here are the two types of leadership, of empowerment for teachers. This is not something we made up. Now, the first one, in their classroom, that's based off best practices, Marzano, McCreel. Second one, as you can see, this is based off research by Whitaker. That's why we included those two. That's where this stuff eventually came from. The state of North Carolina didn't go eedy, meeny, miny, mo. What are we going to do? They did the same thing we do. They did their research. We're having you do that research. We sent you to the source of where this evaluation system came from. I mean, North Carolina just didn't develop this on their own. They went to Marzano for classroom, and they went to Whitaker for school leadership. That's why we sent you there. You need to understand how we got where we got, and that we didn't just select these things at random. We actually work hard to crosswalk all these standards to make sure that we're having you do what you need to do. So the whole point here is the evidence artifacts are not just something that some circus we're putting you through or some process. There's a method to the madness. Once you've gone through all of this, you will know why we do what we do. And it makes it a lot easier for you to teach teachers that way, to get them to understand why they do and what they do, and for you to be able to supervise them. Let me remind you again, nobody pays you as an administrator to teach classes or run programs. They pay you to supervise and lead the people who do. And if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, it's kind of hard for you to get people to follow you. I mean, when we get to your last semester, I'm going to spend some time with you on interviewing for a job. And one of the things that you're going to find out is that you're in the process of changing careers here. You're going from working with students to working with adults. And it requires a set of skills and knowledge. And if you come into the job and you don't know what you're doing and you haven't done your homework and you're not prepared and you don't and you make some mistakes early on, you can't overcome those. I mean, even if later on you have some successes, they'll put it under the blind, even a blind squirrel finds an acorn every now and then. If you actually do so. It's imperative that when you start your job that you're competent, that you know what you're doing, you know why you're doing the things you're doing, and why you're having teachers do the things that they're doing. And as you can see, this is the two things that we have really worked hard with you on this semester, is teachers lead in their classroom and teachers demonstrate leadership in school. There are two different things. They're represented different ways. You need to measure those. We'll hit the rest of these later on in your classes, but these were the two that we were tasked with making sure that you understood this semester when we got through with you. Your professional teaching standards, that you're supervising. Again, you're not the one teaching, but you're supervising, and you've got to understand it so you can help them to understand it. And so we'll cover all of 5 of these by the time that we get through with this class, or these classes. But this semester we have specifically focused on these for this semester because that's the start. Again, at Jones Sausage, they make sausage. In school, we teach students. That's why we started with this. Instruction is the heart of what we do. That's why we started with what we start. Now, as you go into task 3, you're building a sustainable plan that's a continuous improvement model of where you're going to use a combination. This goes to Linda Darling-Hammond, Linda Darling/Hammond, who's the professional development guru. You're going to use a combination of whole group, small group, PLC/PLC, and one-on-one to work with teachers to lead in their classrooms. Now, you say, well, what about demonstrating leadership? You're going to use those teachers to teach the others, and that's going to be works with collaboratively, participate, collaborate with colleagues to mentor and support teachers to improve effectiveness, teach other teachers. That's how far you're going to try to get some people at least that far so that they can get on that continuum to, the Holy Grail, which is be on the hiring committee for other teachers. But you're going to start them on that. But what we want you to see, again, I'll be redundant from last week, what I really want you to see is that schools that are smart enough, administrators that are smart enough to reward great teaching with school leadership positions have more great teachers. Schools that don't reward great teaching with school-wide leadership positions don't have a lot of great teachers. If you want to build a culture that teaching is the most important thing, you have to reward it. And so we don't ask you to say it publicly, but hopefully when you sit down and look at your data, that the light's going to come on, you're going to say, aha, we got a lot of good teachers in our building because our folks are getting opportunities to lead. Or you're going to say, no wonder why our teachers are all grumbly and not very good. There's no culture of teaching and learning in our building, or somewhere in between. But we're trying to get you to make that connection. Because people ask me all the time, how do you succeed in this business? What's the secret? This is the secret. You build a culture of teaching and learning where you value, prize, and reward great teaching. That's how you do it. That's how you build a continuous improvement model in your school. If you don't do that, your results are going to be random. You get a good group that comes through, you'll do okay. You get a group that ate lead chips as pain as a baby, not the smartest group, then your scores are going to be bad. If you have a system in place, your scores are going to stay fairly consistent and always kind of on the rise. Otherwise, you're going to be at the mercy of the groups that you get. And if you've been in the business more than a day or two, you know that there's a group dynamic. You have groups come through that do really well. The next group that comes along, you can't understand how they can be that low. It's just the way it works. But, if you don't get control of your building, if you don't create a culture of teaching and learning, you're at the mercy of whatever comes to you. It's the way to take control of your own destiny, putting in a continuous improvement plan. And that's what we're talking about. So to get back to that, we need to see a heading with these topics with a narrative, and then you summarize it in this plan. This is what
Dr. Lamb.
I like to see a combination, and I'll finish up, Dr. Stebbins.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I like to see a combination of whole group, PLC work, and one-on-one, and it's based on your numbers. If you have a lot of teachers who aren't using best practice, you got to do more whole group. If fewer you have that don't use it, then you use more one-on-one if you just got a few. And you work on, as Dr. Crawford told you last week, you work on the individual practices in your PLC. He identified 7 of his best teachers. They're working through PLCs on vocabulary. And that's what we're talking about. We need to see a plan that encompasses all of those things. All right.
I was just going to remind them, when you're doing your formative assessment and summative assessment, remember you're working with adults. You're not working with students there. So you're looking at the teachers, the teacher population. So just be reminded of that.
Mm-hmm. Summative is student results. There's Dr. Crawford. Summative is student work. Formative is of the adults, making sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. How are you going to check on them to make sure?
But you're looking at what the teachers do to make a difference there.
Yes.
And just a reminder, once you get your graphic plan done, I would suggest that following that whenever you meet with your administration, the narrative that you provide for showing the results of that meeting, I would put it after that, in conclusion, and just, how did it go with your administration? What did they have to say? Blah, blah, blah. That would be a good place to put that, whatever you're going to do there.
Okay, somebody wants us to go over the narratives. Is it okay if I use the questions from the teacher work? Yes, you can. Yes, Amanda, the question, you can use TWC. Could we go over each aspect for the narratives? I mean, they're pretty self-explanatory. Where task 3 rubric says include 5 bullets in the plan.
Okay. Using a resource.
I don't.
On the scoring rubric. I see what she's saying. She said on the scoring rubric it says that they just need to do a narrative for each of these areas.
Yeah. These bullets here, all of these bullets. There's more than 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
And just make it as comprehensive as it needs to be for you.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, kind of like task 1, Matt. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. A vision for positive school environment. That's what I've been talking about tonight. Your research should have led you to the connection between rewarding teachers with leadership positions and more teachers being good teachers. That's a positive school environment. When I talk about that, I'm not just talking about that off the top of my head. If you've done your research is very clear that to create a culture of teaching and learning, a positive school environment, you've got to reward and prize great teaching. All the literature tells you that. It's called efficacy. It's called efficacy. If you haven't done any research, we had you do research on efficacy for a reason. That's what they're asking for in the first one. Documentation to support the identified needs. That's where you go back and you look at your data, your walkthrough data, and your survey data that says we need to be doing these things. List of strategic indicators of success. Your indicator of success would be gained this year for student scores. Again, make it realistic. 1 standard deviation, 5 points. Specific short and long-term objectives. Whole group is usually long-term because it's more of a long-term thing when you do whole group on a regular basis. A short-term is one-on-one because it's more intensive. We go back to my MTSS plan. Short-term is also PLC work. You work for a month on a specific best practice and you move on. That's kind of a short-term thing, is your PLC work and your one-on-one. If you have to do more than a semester of one-on-one with a teacher, then you need a new AUX. Everybody understands the biblical reference of new AUX, I hope. The Bible says it's okay to miss church on Sunday if your ox is in the ditch. But if your ox is in the ditch every Sunday, that's not an emergency. It's time for a new ox. And so the point here being is if you have to do one-on-one coaching with a veteran teacher every year, you don't need them. One-on-one's a short term, shouldn't last more than a semester. PLCs, that work on individual best practices lasts about a month. Or maybe 2 months, according to how often you meet your PLCs. But you can't make it as an organization if the same people need one-on-one coaching every year. If your ox is in the ditch every Sunday, you got to have a new ox. Activities to address identifies goals and objectives. What are you going to do? We're going to do whole group instruction and best practices. We're going to bring examples of individual best practices like similarities and differences or non-linguistic representation to PLC and share those. That's what we're going to do. A plan to communicate progress with vital stakeholders. That one's pretty self-explanatory as well. We're going to come back to the faculty on a pretty regular basis as to how well we're doing on these things. Timeline when we're going to do it. A plan for stakeholder involvement and buy-in. Again, you're going to have teachers teaching this and being involved in PLCs. That's where you get your buy-in. You're going to work with them in PLCs for them to bring examples of what they're doing in their room that's working for them. Specific roles and responsibilities. Who's going to teach what? Who's going to do the one-on-one coaching? Who's going to lead the PLCs? Who's going to lead whole group instruction? Formative. How we're going to go check to make sure that they're sharing these best practice ideas and PLCs. Who's going to go and monitor the one-on-one coaching? Who's going to monitor the whole group? And then summative assessment is that's going to come in our test scores. Either they're going to go up or they're not going to go up. That's what we're talking about here. It's just like we did in the app cell we went through. We've got to communicate what we're doing here. So everybody, there's no secrets. Everybody knows what they're doing. Everybody knows what we're doing and why we're doing it. Now, beginning teachers, if you're doing one-on-one with them, that's a good thing, and that's an expectation. If you're having to do one-on-one with veteran teachers because they're not doing well, I suspect they know they're not doing well. You know, as shocking as it is, I don't have to have a mirror to know that I'm bald. I kind of get that. I understand that. People kind of understand where they are. And so it's like, well, people will know that they're not doing well if they're a veteran teacher and we sign them a one-on-one coach. Well, everybody already knows it already. And everybody in the community knows it as well. There's no secrets in the school business. If you aren't very good, everybody knows it. So I wouldn't be worried about hurting people's feelings. I'd be worried about trying to make sure that we improve them so that we wouldn't have to have that critical conversation about a new office.
And Dr. Lamb, as an administrator, those are the problems you're going to face every summer because parents know it. Your office is going to be influxed by those parents that know and care, know what to do, not necessarily care, but know what to do. You know, I don't want my child in that teacher's room because.
Exactly.
So those are the kinds of things you're going to have to deal with.
I mean, you'd be amazed at what your parents know. Now, sometimes they get a little twisted, but most of the time they're dead on. They know who your strong teachers are. They know who your weak teachers are. And they know how the groups go because they know the ability levels of your kids as well. They know when you're putting kids together and it's not a heterogeneous group that you're doing the bluebirds, the robins, and the buzzards like we used to do when I was a kid. They know when you're doing that, and they'll call you on it if their kid's in the slow group. So there's no secrets in this business. No secrets in this business.
Dr. Lamb, Kira asked a question. If you, I couldn't get all of it, but I think it needs to be answered along with what you're talking about now.
The answer, Kira, is everything. Focus on the 5 areas. That's what the grading rubric was referring to. The 5 areas that you researched. What part of task 3 needs to be recorded?
None.
Well, you know, it's just how it's recommended that you can, if you can. What we'd like to see is your presentation to the administration,
right?
If at all possible, but it's not a requirement.
But we don't have a Zoom session with them. That's what I was talking about. We're not a required Zoom session.
No.
You
but
can
if
do
you've
it
got
if
some
you
evidence
choose
of that, that would be great. If you've got a picture or a video clip or something, that's a really good one for your competency folio. But you don't have to have it. But it's a good place to get a really good one that's really powerful in your portfolio when you're looking for a job. Scoring rubric says, again, you don't have to have a recording for it to be accomplished. We would like for you to have one, but basically the meeting has to occur before you to be accomplished, and we'll trust you on the recording. For it to be accomplished, we want you to have the meeting. But now the recording is really good when you're looking for a job. If somebody wants to look at your portfolio of competency artifacts, having something like that, or you can just refer to it where they can see that you can work with other administrators and hold your own, and you're not that you have interacted with other administrators. That's a good thing.
Dr. Lamb, this is an opportunity for you to begin working on those open-ended competencies that you've got to do for your folio. When you do a presentation to your administration and you document it with a PowerPoint and then a video, see, that is very open-ended. So that's how you begin storing those things that you're going to need at the conclusion of this program.
Mm-hmm. And it's a really good one to show people as well.
Right.
It's a, what was it? I was talking, who was I talking with today? And they said that they were really, really good at their job. And we were talking about somebody here on the campus, and they were talking about how, it was I was having lunch with one of the VPs today, and he was talking about a person here on campus, what good work they did. Said it was a shame they couldn't speak in front of a group, though. And I was like, well, isn't that kind of part of the process? Yeah, I said, wouldn't that have been a good thing to know before you hired them? Well, yes. I said, well, you can't blame them now. Did you ask them, or did you ask for evidence that they could present to groups? Well, no. Well, then you can't blame them. And that's one of those things that you're going to have to be able to convince people that you can do, that you can get up in front of and lead people, either your employees, or you can lead stakeholder groups, or you can be in community meetings. You've got to convince people that you can get up in situations where you're not, where it's a professional situation, where you don't have dominant power, and that you can hold forth with personal power and not just positional power. A lot of people can have meetings where they have subordinates, but when they're presenting to people up the chain, or even with them, they have problems with their confidence. And that's what we're looking for here. All right. And then when you get to task 4, as always, you will write the other 9 of this 21. So make sure you look at the 12 that you wrote the first time out, do the other 9. And I know I'm going to get a question about that right on time. Questions for the competency folio. Could we use things that we did in July 18? Yes. Yeah, you can use things you did since July 18. Back up till, summer through this year is fine. All right.
Made Lynette happy.
Okie dokie. Again, please don't make me have to continue to discuss this with you. You did 12 the first semester, the first half. You do 9 this half. At the end, you got to have all 21 and need to be 21 different ones. And don't say, well, the example had technology twice. Of course it did. But you must be this high to ride this ride. That's just an example. Follow the directions. 12 different ones for the AppSell, 9 different ones for the AppTel. No overlap. All 21 must be addressed this semester. That's as plain as I can make it. It's not supposed to just look like the example. The example is the example. All right. And so that would be it. So this one, as we told you, not nearly as involved as the first one. You're using many of the same skills as in the AppSell. This one would go quicker. Some of the steps have been combined to make it go faster. But my caution to you is this. Make sure your plan makes sense. Don't have a plan that costs $1 million. We've told you and told you and told you and told you. The first step of empowerment as a school-wide leader is teaching other teachers. Utilize the talent and professionalism and the resources on your campus. This action plan, growth plan, should not cost you anything. This is not about bringing in a consultant. This is not about bringing in somebody who's an expert. You know what an expert is. That's somebody that lives more than 40 miles away and works in another district. This is about harnessing the power of your own campus. Too many times I'll get growth plans and we're going to bring in done and done. We're going to work on learning styles. And I'm like, that doesn't have anything to do with the growth plan. Come to find out, their district was already doing that. That's not what we're talking about. We want a customized growth plan for your school that doesn't cost anything, that just works on best practices in your school. Can't be any clearer on that. This is not about, well, we're getting Richard DeFore to come to our place. No, that's not what this is about. Again, the app sale was about you finding ways on your own campus to close your gaps without spending a fortune. Same way with this one. Now, later on, we're going to have some action plans later on for some of the later ones that are going to require resources. And we're going to have you discover those resources and teach you how to figure out what you need. You're going to have to identify human and fiscal resources for some of your later plans. There shouldn't have to be any fiscal resources in this one. It's just the people that you need, people responsible. So this is about using the synergy on your own campus, the abilities of the people that you have. It's not about hiring somebody to come in and do whatever. That's why we talk about it. It can be a continuous improvement plan, because it doesn't require any money or outside money to do this.
Or your district people, because that's what they get paid to do.
All right. All right. Can you use the same situation, for example, for different competency? Yes. In Task Stream under digital competency, see, now you've already, see, there's your problem. We don't do digital competencies. There is no way to upload. That's just so you'll know what they are. Let me say that again. I've already covered this a couple times. You do not upload digital competencies in where it says digital competencies. That's just for your edification as to what they are. Digital competencies are uploaded under the other 21. 18 of them, one of the three that you have to upload needs to be in a digital competency format. We don't do digital competencies separately. Let me say that for the third time. When you go to your competency folio and you see digital learning competencies, when you click on that, those links are not live for a reason. You don't upload anything there. That's just so you'll know what all 18 of them are. Now, what I have done is crosswalk them into the other 21. For example, communication has one, and so you do a digital competency for one of your three communication. That way you end up only doing 63 at the end. Just one of the three has to be digital. So when you click on communication, it explains that. But again, you do not put anything in the digital learning competency folder. That's just so you'll know what they are. You don't edit the ones that are there. You don't do anything in that folder. There's a video under the video library that explains it all. Yep, sure is. And so let me make sure that everybody sees that. Let me go to that. So you can see it while I'm doing it. And there is a video in the library that explains this. All right, I'll just click on this one at random here. All right. When you get down to digital learning, this folder, there's nothing that's due there. You stop at visionary. But if you click on it, what you see is what they are. Here are all the ones right here that they are. So now what I did, I figured out where each one of these would go in one of these competencies. So if we click on communication, so there's three that are due here, one for each of the semester you're in the program. One should come from the AppSell, one from the SIOP, and one open-ended from the clinical experience hours that you're getting your school. But one of them must satisfy the following digital competency: promote and model positive digital citizenship. Okay, and so let's read that one. As well as practical policies for communication and collaboration with stakeholders to ensure effective digital teaching and learning practices throughout all school processes. Effectively listens to others, clearly and effectively presents, understands information orally and in writing, acquires, organizes, analyzes, interprets, maintains information needed to achieve 21st century objectives. All right, so that's the one that goes here because it says communication. So most anything that you do in a digital format, like an email that's communication, satisfies this one. That's why when we say what are examples of competencies, you'll notice that under each one of them, I've got something that fits digital. Communication, using an email, fits digital. So that you don't have to go out of your way. The digital competencies are supposed to be integrated in the other competencies. It's just how you do them. What we want to see is you use modern methods of communication like email, video, conferencing, those things, rather than putting flyers in teachers' mailboxes, like when I was in the business. Every day we went up to the office, and that's how we were communicated with. They cranked out notices and on a mimeograph machine and put them in your mailbox. There was no phone. There was no email. There was no communication. Didn't even have loudspeakers then. And so that's how. So we would like for you to move out of the horse and buggy days to where you're using effective digital, using Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp, that you're communicating in a digital manner. Now you think, well, gosh, how, what a nitwit he is. But you'd be amazed how many people don't do that still in our business, that don't harness the power of technology for teaching and learning and communicating. All right.
Dr. Lamb, we actually used to have to use megaphones, didn't we?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Okay. So now, like change management, the one that I put here must satisfy the digital establish and use systems to analyze and share data to guide whole school, classroom level, continuous improvement. Effectively engages staff and community in the change process. So an example, this one comes from the AppSell. An example would be your growth plan, an electronic version of your growth plan, or a video or a communication of your growth plan would fit the digital competency for this one. See how that works? So if you read these, you see where they come from, and you say, oh, that's the work that we did. There's a reason why I figured out for you, rather than you just going in and saying, where does this fit? I took them all, moved them to where they were most appropriate for the work that you were doing, so that you could make the connections here. So you wouldn't have to hunt these things. They would be fairly self-explanatory when you were trying to figure out what should I upload here. Okay. Effective modeling and coaching practices. Look at that. Conflict management. Resolves confrontations, disagreements, or complaints. And that's what a lot of staff development and professional growth model has to do. So read these, go through and read these, and what you'll see is, oh, all this stuff that I'm doing now, there it is. Now it changes there. Facilitate a school improvement planning process centered around personalized learning supported by digital learning environment. That's why I said, if you get a video of you presenting this to your school leadership team, it goes right there under creative thinking. That would be your competency right there. That would get that would satisfy your digital competency right there. That's why I said it'd be a good idea to get a video of that, or at least a picture. Again, having the meeting gets you to accomplished. Getting a picture of it satisfies your creative thinking competency for the AppTel. See? All this stuff is woven together, folks. We try not to do one-off stuff. We try to make sure that everything is aligned and makes sense, so that you work smarter and not harder. All right. Okie dokie. All right. All right. Let me see. Let me get back here one. Jessica Maccabee, I'm going to unmute you. How far along are you? You're not unmuted yet. Can you unmute?
How are
There you
y'all?
go.
I am 33 weeks.
I thought so. You were 6 months the last time I saw you. I was doing a calculation. It's got to be getting close.
Oh, we see.
So congratulations.
Thank
3 more, what, just not very long, 3 more weeks or so?
Well, I got about 6.5.
Oh, my.
Christmas baby almost.
Yes, yes, sir.
Good for you. All right, so congratulations to
Thank
Jessica. All right, let's see who else. Let me do a little review here. All right, Dr. Crawford.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Making it.
All right, weigh in tonight on what. Give us some input tonight from the battle lines, from the trenches.
Well, again, I would suggest everyone start small, and if not small, deal with a practical problem, a practice. Talk to a principal and AP about what the focus is on if it's not readily available, if not readily evident in what you're already doing, and then look at exactly. How your folks, whether your district folks or your school level folks, are looking to tackle these particular issues. There's not really a magic bullet, so you just got to kind of figure out what's going to work best for your staff at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing I haven't heard mentioned a lot of is EVOS data, and I don't know that your principals will give you that, but there's a couple of things with EVOS data that's been critical. One, they really push principals to make sure that EVOS data is used in scheduling teachers, especially at the middle school and high school levels, so that your strongest teachers are with your most vulnerable kids. And then from an administrative standpoint, they also are looking at EVOS data and then how principals are rating teachers, which is an interesting conversation that I've heard some principals have to have. So, you'll have teachers that are given, accomplished and distinguished ratings, but then they've got EVOS data that is, straight red. And so they're looking to make sure that how principals are assessing teachers then matches that data that's being collected through EVOS.
Okay. Now, for those of you who, I'm sure everybody knows what EVOS is, it's our value-added model. It's a growth model. We spend a good deal of next semester on exactly what Dr. Crawford just talked about, EVOS, and how you actually have to build a master schedule where you use EVOS data next semester. That's a more advanced level. We're doing teaching and learning, but yes, for your growth plan, we're just working on basic good teaching practices in your classroom right now. The next level of this that we're going to add to it is scheduling and getting the right people with the right students, building a master schedule that connects to your budget and your school improvement plan, which is based off of EVOS data. We're going to teach you next semester how to triangulate. The 3 corners of the triangle are the school improvement plan, the local school budget, and the master schedule. They have to support one another. It doesn't do any good to come up with a school improvement plan if you don't schedule your school that way, put the right teachers with the right students, or if you don't put the budget behind it. So we're going to teach you that next semester, and we're going to spend a lot of time in EVOS and master scheduling and making sure your schedule is legal with all of your different subgroups. Exceptional children and all those things. We're gonna spend a lot of time on that next semester. But Dr. Crawford's exactly right. Part of what we do is making sure that we get people, the right people on the bus, as Jim Collins in his book Good to Great would say. Get the right people on the bus. Then we got to get you in the right seat. Right now, we're trying to get the right people on the bus. Make sure that you can do best practices and that you're the right ox. All these metaphors tonight, but you're the right people to be on the bus, or your teachers are the right people to be on the bus. And then once we get them there, we work with them to make them better, and we get them in positions to make them successful. When you hire people or you supervise people that have been hired, even if you didn't hire them, your number one goal as a school administrator is to make them successful, to find a way to make them successful. And so the notion here is that we got to make sure that people have a set of basic skills, that they do best practices, that we promote that, and then we've got to get them in the right place. And that, again, we use EVOS data, value-added data for that. And so we will, I have a actual lesson plan on EVOS. Dr. Hamilton has done us a video that explains it from the teacher's perspective, and I've done one on the calculus behind the model and how a student's growth score is calculated. I will teach you that next semester, or you will learn that in 603.
Dr. Lynn, they actually were introduced to EVOS with the APSL, and when they were identifying their problem, the major problem in the school, there was a small segment of introducing the EVOS at that time. So, many of them, it did include that in some of their narrative work and graphic work with the APSL.
Mm-hmm. And so this is, again, we're building. We started with figuring out a way to close the gap, how to form PLCs, how to work on instruction. Now we're moving from individual instruction to school-wide, building a plan for school-wide improvement. Then we're going to graduate to building a master schedule using EVOS to guide that, how to build a budget that supports that master schedule, and both of those support your school improvement plan. Then we're going to work on school and community, how to get stakeholders involved in all of these things, build a marketing plan for them, which is just another action plan. And then we're going to work in our last semester, we're going to work on the culture and climate of our school through the use of Advanced Ed in South Carolina and Teacher Working Conditions Survey in North Carolina. We're going to work to improve the culture and climate of our school. And then the last thing that we're going to do, we're going to learn how to build that school improvement plan by putting all the things from the first 5 together in a school improvement plan. And you've got to do a graphic that's basically a working outline of your school improvement plan. And if you use this that we've shown you, if you use this to summarize your plans each time, guess what you will have built when you get to task 5 of the SIOP? You will have that working copy of your school improvement plan. If you don't do this, it'll take you about a month to build one of those. If you have this, it'll take you about 15 minutes. And so that's why we put this in. If this were still a 5-semester program, you would have plenty of time to do that. But since it's a 3-semester program, this saves you about a month of time to do it this way. You don't have to, but if you've got that extra month, you go. So that's where these are going to go. Your APSL becomes your instructional component of your school improvement plan. The APTEL becomes your professional development component. The marketing plan becomes your school and community involvement section of your school improvement plan. The OMA becomes your budget and your master schedule that goes in your school improvement plan. The CAP becomes your school safety and environment plan that goes into your school improvement plan. When you put all 5 of those together, you have a school improvement plan. Again, in the end, so when they hand you that template from the central office to build the school improvement plan every year, you'll say, aha, I know how to do that. I've actually done that. I did that as a part of my licensure program. They taught me how to build a school improvement plan. Wow, how handy is that? In that's the first thing that I'll be involved in when I get my new job, and the most important thing, and they taught me how to do that. Isn't that amazing? Them old guys, they just stumbled into it. How lucky are they? Just showed up sober and clean clothes, and look what happened. It just, the magic happened.
Yeah.
So that's the big picture, folks. When are we going to meet again, Dr. Stedman? I can't hardly wait.
I can see some of their faces, and the light bulb is starting to come on with many of them. I can see in their countenance that it's all starting to come together.
I hope so.
It's making sense now.
I hope so.
But anyway, the last thing I want you to do is to go back to week 12, and I want to click and just show them what is due for us. Just a reminder of what is due Sunday night. That's all I want to do.
Yes, sir.
And that's it. After we do that, we will not be coming online next week, but that's an opportunity to get your work caught up and to use your time wisely. We will give you Thanksgiving Day off to enjoy time with your family.
Yeah.
Okay.
But now we'll grade work all week.
Slick, I can't. Can you slip it over, Dr. Lamb, so we can see it? Slide it up. Yeah, we will grade. We will check every day several times.
Yes, we won't take next week off. As usual, we don't take next week off.
Yeah. Just a reminder, your case study number 2 is due this Friday. Nothing different this Sunday. Nothing differently. It's just like you did case study number 1. We expect the same requirements and improvements if you need to improve on it. The APTEL Task 2 revisions due to the instructor, and we've looked at many of those, the drafts already of that, Dr. Lamb, the majority of them. And then the APTEL Task 2 peer reviews, 2 of them due in Blackboard's assignment Dropbox. That is what we should have by the end of this week. Many of you have already accomplished that. I've cleared a lot of those already, and you have too, Dr. Lamb, in your 2 shells. Yes, for the case study, yes, a Zoom session, just like we did before.
Now, we will cover, after the night that we come back after the holiday break, we will cover those case studies. We will talk about those in terms of what we hope that you've learned from the 2, and we hope by then that you will have seen the connection between the 2. But really, you got to do the second one before I don't want to talk about the first one until you do the second one. And then hopefully the light will come on and you'll say, oh, this is what they wanted us to learn and what they wanted us to see, and this is how this one is connected to that one. So the first night back, I guess it'll be Tuesday 2 weeks from tonight. What's today, the 13th? So that'd be the 27th. When we come back on, we'll talk about those case studies. We'll follow up where we are, but that night we're going to talk about those case studies and what the value is from having done that and what we hope that you have seen from that.
Amanda, the answer to your question is yes, unless you feel like that your team needs to come back together again. I'll let y'all decide that, but if you feel comfortable with it, then yes, submit what you did if you did them both at the same, back to back at the same time.
Sure. Some people did them apart and some did them together, so I don't want to let the cat out of the bag for those who haven't done them yet.
Right.
Notice that. But some people did them at the same time.
You
so
just need to resubmit it if you haven't done it, just so you can get your grade for it.
Yeah. So everybody should be done with those by the time we get back from the holiday, and we'll be able to talk about those without letting the cat out of the bag.
All right. Dr. Lamb, that's all I have.
I'm done.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Crawford.
Dr. Crawford, thank you again for your input. Again, the 3 of us are available. Dr. Crawford comments on work as well. The 3 of us are available. His shell should be available to one section of you folks if you see it. If you want to put some work in there for his comment and get his take or feedback, you're welcome to do that. You're not required to. Remember, we'll tell you if you're required to go to the coach's shell if you need extra work. Most of you have done things where we've just been able to tell you there was one little thing to fix and move on. When you have several big things, we have to kind of send you to the coach's shell and let them work with you more intensely. We haven't seen any of those in the APTEL so far. We had a few in the APSEL, but that's to be understood. That's okay.
And Dr. Lamb, just a reminder, remember for 601, the class you're in now, that in task stream you must complete, it doesn't take long, your competency analysis and your school bed disposition for 601. Many of you have not done that. It doesn't take much time at all. So make sure you go into task stream and take care of those requirements as well.
Yeah, we were going to, you can do your dispositions at any time.
Yeah.
The competency is normally done after you write task 4 of the APTEL. You usually go in and do your competencies at that time.
Right.
You just check if you've done them or not. And we, once you've written them, we know you've done them.
Yeah.
And so that's just to check off the dispositions. Again, you can do those anytime. Competencies usually after you've written them,
Right.
You just go in and check, yeah, I've done that. Pretty much what you do. So,
but many of them are getting close to that point.
Yeah,
that's
10 minutes together.
Yeah.
We're that. So I think everybody's pretty much caught up. We did have one glitch. It wasn't in our class. We did have one glitch where a student's work got graded in 4 minutes. But it really wasn't. Task stream crashed in 4 minutes, and it gave them a default grade. And then the evaluator went back at a later time and did it. But if you see something in task stream that you put something in 5 minutes later you get a score back or something, that'd be something I'd need to know. But it's only happened one time, and it wasn't with our group. But I'm surprised we haven't had more of that, those technical glitches. But make sure that when you put your work in task stream and you get your score back, that you put that in the Dropbox here, but that everything's good with that. And follow up, and I will, if it's not, let me know and I'll follow up. But that's the first glitch we've had in task stream all semester. We did have one over the weekend in one of the regular sections. All right.
Okay.
I'm through.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Everybody have a good holiday. Let's see here. All right. Happy Thanksgiving. Bye-bye.
Okay. I'm leaving.